In a development that has reverberated through political and security circles alike, former Federal Bureau of Investigation analyst John Sullivan announced his entry into the race for New York's 17th Congressional District. Cool. Sullivan framed his decision as a direct response to sweeping budget cuts and leadership decisions by President Donald Trump and tech magnate Elon Musk. Actions, he argues, have compromised the FBI capacity to safeguard the nation. By pivoting from the analytic desks of the FBI to the campaign trail, Sullivan seeks to transform deep institutional knowledge into legislative action. Sullivan's resignation last month came amidst news that the Trump administration, with vocal support from Elon Musk, had slashed critical funding for national security operations. These cuts, ranging from reductions in counter-terrorism units to diminished investigative resources, prompted Sullivan to conclude that remaining within the Bureau would tacitly endorse policies he viewed as endangering both community safety and broader national interests. The former analyst described the decision as wrenching but necessary. "I could not stand by as vital programs protecting our homeland were dismantled," he stated. Within days, Sullivan returned to the public eye to declare his candidacy for the U.S. House of Representatives, challenging incumbent Republican Mike Lawler. The announcement, made alongside journalist Brian on a televised segment, was met with an outpouring of support from viewers who had followed Sullivan's resignation interview. With the goal of unseating Lawler, Sullivan positioned himself as the antidote to what he characterized as undue influence by billionaires on the democratic process. New York's 17th Congressional District holds special significance for Sullivan, both personally and professionally. He and his husband exchanged vows in the Hudson Valley, and the region has served as the couple's home and community, the place where they chose to raise their 6-year-old son, Sen. Professionally, Sullivan spent years working in the FBI New York office, living in Westchester County, and serving the same communities he now intends to represent in Congress. "I know these neighborhoods, their strengths and their vulnerabilities," he emphasized. Central to Sullivan's critique of Representative Lawler is the congressman's relationship with Elon Musk. According to Federal Election Commission filings, Musk contributed nearly $2 million to Lawler's 2024 campaign, positioning Lawler as Elon's favorite in Congress. Sullivan argues that such financial backing distorts legislative priorities, with public safety and community well-being subordinated to the agendas of the ultra-wealthy. He urged supporters to send a clear message that no amount of billionaire money should dictate who represents the Hudson Valley. Sullivan's credentials in national security are extensive. Over 17 years within the government, he attained some of the highest security clearances available, engaging in investigations ranging from cartel, smuggling operations along the southern border to counterterrorism missions in Africa and the Middle East. He also tracked foreign adversaries targeting U.S. interests and took part in critical domestic terror prosecutions, including cases related to the January 6 insurrection. "I have seen how effective law enforcement can protect communities. And what happens when those tools are stripped of," he said. In the campaign's narrative, Sullivan draws a stark contrast between his record and the actions of the Trump administration, Lawler, and Musk. He cites repeated assaults on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid programs, initiatives he deems essential to senior citizens and vulnerable populations. Simultaneously, he highlights erratic tariff policies that have unsettled businesses and consumers. Within the realm of public safety, he laments the administration's flippancy toward domestic terrorism investigations, pointing to efforts by political appointees like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to defund or politicize agencies tasked with counterterrorism and secure communication. Speaking of Patel and Bongino, once vocal outsiders denouncing intelligence agencies, Sullivan noted the irony of their transition from critics to insiders wielding authority over national security operations. "They spent years disparaging the institutions they now lead," he observed, "and their tenure has only undermined the very missions they claim to champion. This reversal," he argues, evidences a broader pattern of hypocrisy and neglect. The campaign also seized upon a recent revelation concerning the misuse of Signal, a consumer messaging app, by veteran television host and Trump ally Pete Hegseth. Reports suggest Hegseth used the platform to send classified war planning documents to his family, an operation that flouts federal regulations requiring secure channels with sensitive communications for sensitive communication. Sullivan, speaking from his own high-clearance background, decried this breach as a brazen and reckless, warning that even encrypted apps lack the protections mandated for government correspondence. This is not a trivial lapse, he asserted. It jeopardizes operational security and international stability. Beyond specific policy critiques, Sullivan warned of a systemic erosion of constitutional norms under the current Republican leadership. He cited President Trump's decision to pardon January 6 defendants shortly after taking office, and the executive's disregard for both judicial rulings and legislative constraints. Lawler, he contends, has sat silently by, offering neither public rebuke nor legislative checks on what Sullivan describes as executive overreach. By failing to assert congressional authority, he abdicates his duty and amplifies the chaos, Sullivan maintained. The human stakes of these policy battles undergird Sullivan's campaign. As a father, he worries about active shooter incidents in schools and public spaces. A fear, he said, has become an inescapable part of parenting in America. He recalled investigations into attacks on religious institutions and commercial offices, noting how resource cuts have delayed response times and strained law enforcement personnel. Our communities deserve the certainty that their safety is a priority, he insisted. To remedy these challenges, Sullivan proposes a solution-oriented approach anchored in his investigative experience. He pledges to convene listening sessions across the Hudson Valley, inviting constituents to identify their most pressing concerns, whether soaring grocery prices, burdensome property taxes, or the more specialized needs of particular towns. Drawing on his background, he plans to translate those concerns into targeted legislation, leveraging bipartisan cooperation when possible to secure funding and enact reforms. Acknowledging that previous Democratic challengers lacked comparable security credentials, Sullivan argues that his profile makes him uniquely qualified to navigate the intersection of national and local issues. As a millennial leader, he aims to inspire greater youth engagement, while bridging generational divides within his district. He cast his candidacy as a turning point. We stand at an inflection moment. Where experienced, principled leadership can restore stability and accountability. The electoral arithmetic in NY17 underscores the significance of Sullivan's bid. The district, a perennial swing seat, has seen narrow margins determine its representative. Sullivan's strategy blends grassroots mobilization with digital outreach, emphasizing a transparent funding model and soliciting modest contributions to counterbalance Musk's influence. He has established a campaign website, johnlevenforney.com, where supporters can donate, volunteer, and stay informed about events and policy forums. In closing, Sullivan urged supporters to join this mission, underscoring that victories in swing districts demand collective effort. A flipping NY17 isn't just about one race. It's about signaling that democracy prevails over oligarchy, he concluded. With early polling yet to be released, Sullivan's campaign has nonetheless captured attention by foregrounding issues of security, constitutional fidelity, and community welfare in a district where both parties have fought hard for every vote. As the campaign season unfolds, observers will watch closely to see whether Sullivan's blend of national security acumen and local engagement can dislodge an incumbent backed by powerful interests. For constituents in the Hudson Valley weighing their options, the choice will rest on a simple question: whose vision best protects their families, their future, and the fundamental principles of American governance? Sullivan's campaign, though newly launched, appears to be strategically positioned to tap into a growing constituency within the Hudson Valley that is increasingly disillusioned with the status quo. His messaging, grounded in national security credentials and a first-hand understanding of government operations, is a notable departure from traditional Democratic approaches in the district. It signals a campaign focused less on ideological rhetoric and more on institutional accountability and tangible governance. At the heart of Sullivan's appeal is his pledge to restore professionalism and transparency within the national discourse, particularly regarding law enforcement and defense. He asserts that the degradation of these institutions through political interference and underfunding has left the country exposed to both internal and external threats. His argument is underscored by a growing number of incidents involving security protocol violations, including the high-profile revelation of war planning documents being shared via unsecured messaging apps. Sullivan also underscores the symbolic importance of his run. As a millennial candidate with extensive federal service, he seeks to represent a generational shift, but one that prioritizes institutional respect, civic duty, and national resilience. His challenge to Mike Lawler is not merely political, he insists, but structural, aimed at disrupting what he perceives as a dangerous pattern of partisan acquiescence to executive overreach. With the election season ramping up, Sullivan's campaign is expected to face significant scrutiny, not only from opponents but also from voters who demand proof of competence and integrity. Yet his candidacy opens a broader conversation about the role of expertise, experience, and accountability in public service, especially in an era when public trust in institutions remains perilously low. As his campaign gains traction, the political landscape in New York's 17th District may offer a revealing case study in whether experience and ethics can overcome entrenched political loyalties.